It's just a cute little idea that he has because to explain how death works. What this situation does essentially is put and here's what I'm going to really emphasize, especially with the aspect of pregnant women. When it comes to raising a child, the weak link breaks the chain. Kids associate with other kids. They get involved with this whole kind of social situation. You know, you can tell your child, "I'm not going to watch television," you know, or "You're not going to watch television." You can tell your child, "You're not going to eat at McDonald's." Okay, that's great. So you tell your child, "I don't want you to eat at McDonald's. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. It's going to stunt your brain power. It's going to stunt your growth. It's going to stunt everything." Great. Well, if the kid's friend has a party at McDonald's for his birthday, and what do? As a parent, what do? Do you tell the kid, "No, you're not going to McDonald's because it's bad"? Well, then you're kind of an asshole, and the kid's going to hate you. Then you wind up sending your kid to McDonald's because you don't know how else to deal with the situation. And what Crowley's really trying to do here, I think, is create not just a situation where children can be raised in a stimulating environment that affects their intellect and helps their development, but in an environment where there's a community of children who are raised in a stimulating environment that helps their development. Because then these kids can also help each other and help identify each other, and then you don't have that kind of birthday party at McDonald's type problem. Because parents face this all the time, and I think I'm not a parent myself, but I would estimate this is one of the biggest challenges of being a parent, is your child is interacting with other children, you don't know what kind of environment they're raised in, and they may be exposed to things that are very negative for their development, certainly not stimulating. And kids like that. You know, it becomes a matter of peer pressure. You know, "Oh, your parents don't let you watch TV? That's terrible. I love television." You know what I mean? And then the kid all of a sudden has an inclination to do the same thing as they're being sort of told is, "Yeah, this is fun. I like this." Now, there is a danger to even really talking about this seriously in a Thelemic context, because we are essentially a fringe religious group. It's a very small kind of thing. And we are living in a era of a sort of post-Catholic child abuse type situation, where people are looking at any religious organization being involved with the raising of children becomes inherently problematic, because people are very suspicious of this, and rightly so. This definitely means that anyone involved in this type of community, if it was to take the idea of educating children seriously, would have to be very carefully screened, very carefully looked at, their background and who they are and what's going on, and very critically looked at. And that's a very big problem, because I think that because it is a small group, it's very eager to attract new members and attract new people. And that I sometimes think that people are therefore unwilling to look critically at people who become interested, because it's just so nice to have someone who's interested, who wants to become involved, that then they don't want to sort of ask too many questions about them, because that might turn them away or whatever. But the reality is, like Crowley's saying about teaching the kid to read, you kind of have to push people away. And the people who keep coming back are the people who really want to be here. If you're trying to suck people in, that's no good. And because promulgating the law is supposed to be part of the essential will of every Thelemite, I think that's a very important thing to think about. And I think that really the promulgation efforts that I've seen have been mostly trying to sex up Thelema, to make it attractive to people, to emphasize the parts that they know everyone is going to like, and de-emphasize the parts that people aren't. When I think that's totally the opposite approach that should be taken. So if you want to really get people who are real Thelemites and really going to be into Thelema, you have to emphasize the parts that you know are going to disturb them, that you know are going to upset them, that you know they're not going to like. And if you don't emphasize those parts first, then they're going to find them later, and then they're going to freak out. And that's why I think we have a revolving door system in the Thelemic community, where people get really into things in the beginning, they get really excited about things in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they come across something, chapter 3 stuff, or, which, you'd be shocked that people don't come across first, but, whatever. All of a sudden, what do you mean, I will give you of their flesh to eat? Where are we going with this exactly? And when people start asking those kind of questions after they've been involved for a while, it sort of turns them off. But the reality is, if you want a strong community of people who are highly invested in Thelema, you got to give them the stuff that they're not going to like first. Just like educating children, you have to try to turn them off as much as you can. And the people who you can't turn off, they're the people who you really want to get into it. I think that the big deal here becomes, how does he put it? Crowley writes a letter to Henry Ford, where he's trying to sort of bring Henry Ford into Thelema. And in a way, I almost feel like he goes against his own grain here, where he tries to make it, not only make it attractive, but he tries to flatter Ford very much in terms of what his sort of ideas are. I was talking to you about this earlier, but yeah, I mean, he's saying, it was your will to help people move from place to place and to make this great development. Well, I really think that Henry Ford's will was to make money, and that was kind of his primary motivation. And, it was mostly probably Ford's money that Crowley was after, and good on him for trying that. I mean, it would be better for us to recruit Thelemites who actually have resources than recruit Thelemites who are, poor students, can't really contribute very much. But there's one point where he says specifically, save us from the desires that aren't ours. We are being told what to want, what to want, what to want, and it confuses people. They get confused about what they want. It makes it very difficult to know yourself, especially if you're being told what to want from such a young age, that before you really develop your critical thinking skills, before you really develop your ability to argue and to communicate on that level. And that's one of the big things that he says to do with kids, is to always show the dialectic. If they fix on one point, take the other point, and to show them, there's not just that there's two sides to everything, but that they can argue. And he says, sharpen this capacity of theirs from a very quick standpoint. And we can extrapolate that to promulgating the law as well. Because if we get someone who's new to Thelema, and they're really into it, and I think the tendency is, in the Thelema community, to, agree, bobblehead, agree with what they're saying. Oh, yes, great, you like that, right, that's really good. When in reality, what we should be doing is presenting a counterpoint, arguing with them, and shooting down their ideas, and seeing what they come back with. That's how growth happens. I think that conflict develops strength, and unity divides strength. If the more you try to seek for unity, especially ideological unity, the more you lose the power of something, because you have everyone who's got kind of a half-assed idea of one thing trying to pull themselves together, and that doesn't help anybody. There's a reason that the Book of the Law says, "As brothers fight." I have a brother. You should see us at family gatherings. Usually they have to tell us to shut up because we'll be arguing about everything, basically. But I mean, it's great. It's a great argument. It's a great natured argument. I would rather have a good argument than two people. It turns on into a CBC talk show. This is why I hate CBC. Oh, that's a wonderful thought. Thanks. That's a great idea. Oh, I think your ideas are great too. That's not an interesting conversation. Who the fuck wants to listen to that? Seriously. You need to have people fighting, as I've heard someone say recently, if you don't hear people fighting about something, they don't really care about it. If people are really deeply invested in Thelema, you get two people who are deeply invested about it, and they have different ideas about it, they should be fighting about it. They're going to have different ideas. There's no way that they're going to agree on everything. And I think that it's the things that we don't agree on that we should be focusing on. But just like I said before, because it is a small community, people get worried about that. They don't want to start these personal conflicts. They don't want to have these sort of a combative idea, because they're worried about turning people away. I mean, I always find this funny if I get in an argument, particularly if I get in an argument online, it'll be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and someone always pipes up, "Why do we have to be fighting?" It's we have to be fighting because we give a shit. And that's the person who I care the least about, is the "why do we have to be fighting" person. Because there's some people who just can't handle the fact that people are disagreeing with each other, people are having conflict.